Obviously, conferences on their own don't deliver the results. This conference, however, is somewhat different from any other conference that has been held in the tourism sector, actually since 1994. It's just, we've never had a conference of this kind, organized by the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, and partly because we've been through such a serious crisis, and we need to work together to work our way out of the crisis. We've got massive opportunity, but to realize that opportunity, we need to get all our ducks in a row, and we need a collaborative effort, a joint exercise between the private sector and government. And so this conference comes at the right time. As I said, we've never had a conference of this kind, as big as this, that is focusing on tourism leadership. That leadership has to come from government, real leadership. Leadership has to come from the private sector, real leadership. And so that's the message of this conference. And tourism is the one sector that enables us to get out of this, or contributes to us getting out of the crisis that we're in, the economic crisis. Because in the same way as tourism is affected very rapidly by things like Ebola some years ago, although we didn't have a single case in South Africa, now COVID, and impacted profoundly, it gets out very quickly as well.
How do you convince those skeptics who say it's been 20 years specifically between the tourism industry and indeed the government officials involved in this space, but what actually could result of this?
Yeah, no, I think the skepticism is understandable because people want to see results now. But within the sector, and especially the main players in the sector, they are not skeptical because they know there has to be ongoing effort. And they know without this collaboration, as imperfect as it may be, we won't achieve the results. So setting a new target of 15 million arrivals, international arrivals by 2030, it wasn't a thumbsuck figure. It was done through serious research, a lot of parties involved in arriving at that figure. So it's a figure smaller than the figure announced by the president himself some years ago. It's the post-COVID analysis. But it's still a very ambitious target. But the recognition, whether it's from government side, from our side, from SA Tourism, our side, I mean the private sector side, I've been working very closely with the private sector, but there's an acknowledgement that there is not even the remotest possibility of arriving at that figure if some of the major constraints aren't addressed. And so, of course, it's not just one government department, it's an all-of-government approach. The fact that the minister in the presidency announced that he would be engaging with the sector and sector leaders, industry leaders, is a positive step in the right direction. I think various kind of announcements made here, the pressure will continue. The major constraints are transport constraints. So if you were to achieve those figures, there will be infrastructural challenges and big ones. AXA will have to come to the party. The National Public Transport Regulator can't operate the way it's been operating. So government will have to be put under pressure. And we can do that unapologetically. However much I'm part of the governing party, they must do their side of it, and the private sector must do its side of it. So it's not only about growth, but we want to see inclusive growth. We want to see responsible tourism. We want the private sector, the tour operators, the product owners to do whatever they can. Because tourism is not like one big mine somewhere in one part of the country or big factory in one part of the country. It is distributed throughout the country. It reaches remote rural areas where no other sector can operate. And sometimes those remote areas where there's no other economic opportunity are the real winning areas for tourism. In summary, I am not cynical. I think it's an ongoing effort to deal with issues like visas more decisively so that we can move to a really world-class e-visa system, which was announced by the President in 2019. We must move towards it so that we not only have a great country to market, which we do, that we market it well. And I think that came out of this conference very well. And we make it easier for people to come to our country. So there are a number of things that have to be addressed simultaneously. It's not going to be a smooth ride, but this conference does mark the beginning, I believe, maybe I'm just the eternal optimist, of a process of the beginning of a process of partnership and collaboration between the private sector and the public sector, and we know that the President is very strong on this. And now for the parties to come to the party, the private sector and the public sector, to be in a single conference, in fact, convened by the private sector. But government is here, DGs are here, and it was opened by the minister in the presidency. And so it shows that there's a strong feeling out there that it's not something we would like to do, that if we're going to achieve the results, it's something that we have to do.